The evening began like any other installment of Jimmy Kimmel Live, with a cheerful audience, a lively monologue, and anticipation in the air for the arrival of Hollywood royalty, Morgan Freeman. Known for his calm demeanor, powerful voice, and legendary roles, Morgan's presence was supposed to bring wisdom, nostalgia, and light-hearted discussion. As the cameras rolled and Freeman took his seat across from Kimmel, the audience roared with applause. The host welcomed him warmly, and the two exchanged a few pleasantries. The initial conversation revolved around Morgan's latest narration project and a retrospective look at his early career. But as the dialogue unfolded, Jimmy Kimmel shifted toward more controversial territory. He brought up an old, unsubstantiated scandal involving Freeman, one that had largely faded from the public eye and was never proven with credible evidence. Morgan's face remained composed, but his tone dropped a notch colder as he replied, "I thought we were here to talk about the craft, not tabloid speculation." Kimmel, sensing the tension, tried to smile through it, but the seed had been planted for a confrontation that would soon shake the studio. Jimmy, likely aiming to spice up the segment, pressed further, asking if Freeman believed his legacy had been tarnished by those stories, and whether he felt Hollywood had been forgiving. The crowd grew quieter, unsure whether this was a scripted bit or an unscripted confrontation. Morgan's jaw tightened slightly as he answered, "I've worked for 6 decades in this business, and if anyone wants to reduce me to a headline, they're free to try. But I won't help them do it." Kimmel chuckled awkwardly, perhaps not realizing how deeply Freeman was taking the exchange. Instead of backing off, he quipped, "Well, people do say where there's smoke, there's fire." That moment was the tipping point. Morgan leaned forward and in a calm but cutting voice said, "You may be used to turning serious matters into punchlines, Jimmy, but some of us still believe in integrity." The air in the studio was now thick with discomfort. The audience was stunned. A few people clapped lightly in support of Freeman, but the energy had noticeably shifted. Kimmel looked momentarily flustered, realizing the interview was no longer under his control. Still, Jimmy attempted to redirect the tone, switching topics to Freeman's philanthropic work, but it was too late. The vibe was already soured. Morgan responded briefly, not with anger, but with a steady conviction that conveyed his disappointment. "When you invite someone into your space," he said, "you either treat them with dignity or don't invite them at all." The audience offered an uncertain murmur of applause. Kimmel, now visibly trying to smooth things over, joked, "You're right, I should have known better than to mess with a man who played God twice." But the joke didn't land. Freeman, in his iconic deep tone, replied, "Even God deserves better questions." That line hit hard, drawing a mix of applause and nervous laughter. The tension was unmistakable. Producers off stage scrambled to decide whether to cut to commercial or let the segment play out. Freeman looked toward the side stage as if to check the time, and then turned back to Kimmel and said, "This isn't the conversation I came here for, and I don't owe you a performance when respect isn't reciprocated." The audience remained silent, hanging on every word. Jimmy's grin was now replaced with a more defensive expression. "I didn't mean to disrespect you, sir," he said, the word "sir" carrying a hint of formality not usually present in his interviews, but Morgan didn't seem convinced. "Intentions matter," Freeman replied, "but so do actions, and platforming innuendo for ratings isn't noble." The cameras continued rolling as the show deviated further from its usual tone of banter and laughs. Jimmy mumbled something about being edgy, about the nature of modern talk shows, but Freeman wasn't interested in excuses. "There's a line between edgy and reckless," he said. The audience, silent for most of this exchange, erupted in applause. Freeman stood up slowly, adjusted his blazer, and faced the crowd. "To the viewers at home," he said, "thank you for your time. I hope your evenings are better spent than mine was." He turned, nodded briefly at Kimmel, who sat frozen in his chair, and walked off the stage. The studio lights dimmed briefly as producers cut hastily to a commercial, the sudden exit catching everyone off guard. Backstage, Freeman didn't raise his voice or cause a scene, according to eyewitnesses. He simply thanked a few crew members, shook hands with one of the assistants, and exited the building with the same grace he's carried throughout his career. Meanwhile, social media lit up with clips of the encounter, and within minutes, the hashtags Morgan Freeman, Kimmel Clash, and Dyche walk-off legend were trending. Opinions were sharply divided. Some praised Freeman for standing up against what they saw as disrespectful journalism masquerading as comedy. Others accused him of overreacting, claiming that celebrities should expect tough questions in public interviews. However, the prevailing tone was one of admiration. Many noted that Freeman didn't yell, didn't attack personally. He simply walked away with his dignity intact. Industry insiders began to whisper about a quiet blacklist forming, not against Freeman, but against hosts who blur the line between entertainment and exploitation. Kimmel, for his part, offered no comment that night. The next day, his show's Twitter account posted a vague message about live TV sometimes going off script. Journalists and media critics weighed in rapidly. Some called it one of the most powerful silent protests ever seen on a talk show. Op-eds began pouring out with titles like Morgan Freeman and the Death of Talk Show Decency, or When Cons Say Enough. Veteran broadcasters reflected on the shift in late-night culture, from genuine conversations to viral ambushes disguised as humor. Freeman's action was hailed as a stand for integrity in an industry increasingly obsessed with drama and clicks. The following evening, Kimmel returned to air and gave a brief, scripted acknowledgement. Last night's interview didn't go how we planned. I have deep respect for Mr. Freeman and I regret how things turned out. It was unclear if the regret was about the incident itself or the public backlash. Regardless, the moment had already taken a life of its own. Freeman had set a precedent, not with volume, but with principle. The clip of his walk-off amassed millions of views, shared with captions like a masterclass in grace and sometimes walking away says it all. Freeman's representatives issued a short but firm statement. Mr. Freeman believes in the value of respectful dialogue. He will continue to appear on platforms that reflect those values. That statement alone caused ripple effects across the industry. Other A-list celebrities reportedly started requesting clearer pre-interview agreements. Producers from rival shows subtly shaded Kimmel by promoting their respect-driven formats. Freeman's quiet protest had become a movement of sorts, a pushback against the erosion of boundaries in modern media. Meanwhile, Freeman carried on with his schedule, appearing at charity events and speaking at a university commencement where he referenced the incident without naming names. There will be moments, he told the graduates, when your dignity is tested. You don't always need to fight. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with grace. The audience gave him a standing ovation. The remark was subtle but unmistakable. Freeman had turned a tense moment into a teachable one, further cementing his legacy, not just as an actor, but as a figure of wisdom. Talk show hosts across networks began to take note. In the weeks that followed, interviews became more measured, less intrusive. Publicists became more vigilant, protecting their clients' emotional space while on set. Some fans speculated that Freeman's actions had initiated a respect revolution in media. A well-known comedian tweeted, "Imagine being so legendary, your silence changes the industry." It was hyperbolic, but not entirely untrue. Freeman didn't engage in a war of words. He didn't attack Kimmel's character. He didn't take to Twitter to post reactive rants. He simply held his line, issued a statement, and let the public come to their own conclusions. That kind of restraint stood out in a world constantly chasing noise. Younger actors began citing the incident as inspiration, stating they too would be mindful about where they appeared and what kind of content they endorsed. Freeman's legacy, already immense, now had another layer, one built not on roles played, but on character displayed under pressure. Kimmel's reputation took a noticeable hit. Though still hosting, the buzz surrounding his show dwindled slightly as viewers began reassessing his style. Some loyal fans defended him, insisting he meant no harm, while others voiced disappointment that he had crossed a line with such a revered guest. The incident forced broader conversations about how far is too far in the pursuit of ratings. TV panels debated the ethics of mixing journalism, comedy, and personal probing. Freeman, meanwhile, didn't speak further about the walk-off. His silence added weight to his stance. The absence of drama kept the spotlight focused on the issue rather than the personalities involved. And as time passed, the walk-off became symbolic, not just of one man's threshold, but of an entire industry's reckoning. Kimmel's writers reportedly adjusted future scripts to be more balanced, avoiding unnecessarily provocative segments. Other shows followed suit, making late-night television a bit more thoughtful, a bit more respectful,